Welcome everybody to Game Bad. My name is Walker and I want to talk to you about Operation Harsh Doorstop. Operation Harsh Doorstop is a free-to-play, community-driven tactical shooter developed and published by DrakeLing Labs with the hope of becoming a juggernaut in the tac shooter scene with the help of its player base via a released mod kit for the game that I will put down in the description. I think the hope for this game is to have it on par with games like Squad, Hell Let Loose, Rising Storm, and various other titles in the genre, and I don't think it's particularly crazy to think that one day it could be. As of right now, we're looking at a great foundation for what they're aiming for, a community-built game like Ravenfield and Gary's Mod, but with the roots in military simulation, games like Squad and Arma 3. And we know that Arma 3 has this abundant modding community that has probably kept it alive for most of its lifespan, even though the campaigns in that game are perfectly worth playing through, but that's beside the point. And looking at the Steam Workshop, we already have various player-made factions, scenarios, a Halo mod, camera modifications, and even a mod that puts you in the place of a Starship Trooper defending against a horde of bugs from the Starship Trooper universe, which is pretty awesome. Now, I've never created a mod before, but I gotta say that considering this game only came out like 3 weeks ago and already has 55 plus mods, it might be more by the time this video comes out, I think they've made their point. Also, in addition, I've seen early works in progress for ground assault vehicles and air support, and I'm sure there's a lot going on behind the scenes. It's kind of limitless to some degree. It's really kind of hard to say where this game will go in the future, but I think that's probably the point. As someone who spends a lot of time in these sorts of games, I couldn't be more excited about that whatever game that you're playing vanilla could completely change in a year's time. There could be a popular game mode that comes out for this game that is the sole reason people download it. Who knows? And I think that we're probably, in reality, just getting this kind of small sliver of what this game is capable of. I mean, considering the game didn't drop with any vehicles at all, and we're seeing footage of choppers and tanks and transport vehicles. Those things fundamentally change tactical shooters. Those are not small changes. Those are huge changes. And they're being created by you and I, like just people who are invested and willing to invest their time into it. That's awesome. The majority of my time in the tac shooter space has been spent on Hell Let Loose mainly, and some other games like Squad, and I've had my fair share of time in Arma. And though I've spent a lot of time with those, they don't grab me quite the same way that like Hell Let Loose does, and I think that's the case in point for Operation Harsh Doorstop. For me, I think the thing about tac shooters is that even though there are so many tactical shooters that are, I think at first glance you'd look at and say, oh, these things are incredibly alike, each one is so vastly different. Even though, for instance, my favorite tac shooter is Hell Let Loose. I've played, I think, almost 300 hours, maybe like 260 hours on that game, which is a lot for me. On paper, if you were to ignore the time period at which these games are set, Hell Let Loose on paper isn't that much different than Squad. But I think anybody who's played both of these games knows that they really aren't that similar. Everybody has an individual taste, and there are going to be people who love Hell Let Loose who don't love Squad, for instance, or people who love Squad but aren't going to love Rising Storm, and so on. I think the whole point of Operation Harsh Doorstop is to kind of take these limitations and these sort of personal tastes, not completely out the window, but specialize to one or the other. So there's kind of no limits as to like, you prefer this game to this one, And I'm not saying that, Operation Harsh Doorstop is going to be your one-stop shop for everything tac shooter. It's just wild to think that in a single gaming experience, you could leave one server with a certain style of tac shooter that you're not super thrilled about and just join another server, and it can be a completely different experience. And I think that's the whole driving point behind this game, and that it's created by us. It's a lot easier to trust the tac shooter community to make really good tac shooters. The whole idea of one game being better or worse than another game doesn't really apply to Operation Harsh Doorstep. At least I'm hoping that's what it's going to be. That's the potential. This game can be whatever we want it to be, and that's super exciting. I do want to talk a little bit about the game as it stands currently, assuming you haven't downloaded any modifications and are pretty much playing the vanilla experience. The UI and map mechanics are fairly simple overall, and I would love to see that expanded upon in the future, either by the devs or the community. I'm sure it will be. As a personal preference, having friendly units nameplates appear faster would be nice, but that's maybe from my experience in Hell Let Loose, where you can pretty much set it so you see everybody's nameplate on your team within, I think it's like 250 meters, which is a lot. I mean, I can see people across the map to some degree. So maybe that would be a little bit extreme, but I just find that it's kind of hard to see friendly nameplates. On some of the maps, especially the modern maps, the friendly and enemies are a little hard to distinguish. Maybe that's the point. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but just thought I'd note it. I will say the performance as of right now is somewhat inconsistent, at least on my hardware. I don't have the most up-to-date computer. I'm still running a 2080 Ti, so maybe other people are getting better performance than I am. It's very possible. As a matter of fact, it's guaranteed. I'm sure also that with time, this game is going to be optimized. It really just came out recently. It is Unreal Engine, I believe, so it should be relatively easy to optimize over time. I'm sure that will get better, so don't let that turn you off. I also feel that the in-game voice chat is kind of spotty. I don't think the squad system really has a whole lot of merit right now, because you look at squad and Hell Let Loose, and they're saying there's these different roles that play, you know, huge parts in the gameplay, and they're very important. On Hell Let Loose, at least, like having an assault player and a support player and an anti-tank player and an engineer player, I mean, those are all very different roles that require different skill levels. And I think just because the game is relatively simple right now just means that those are somewhat indistinguishable. The medic is really useful, maybe having a machine gunner, but as of right now, that's all really simple. Even the squad leader doesn't have a whole lot of tools as far as commanding their squad. It's kind of just the ability to open a new squad for people to join as of right now. I hope that the squad leader function will get improved in the future and expanded upon, and I think that'll actually happen once the sort of flow of the game mode works a little bit differently. Because as of right now, we spawn in at one spawn point and you push towards the attack objective. Once you've captured that attack objective, you spawn there and you go for the next one. It's very simple. I think that's the point. It's just to get something that people can play. These are things that will be changed by the community, and I'm sure it will be expanded upon. I would love to see games like some of these more open-ended shooters like Squad. I mean, having logi trucks and rallying points and radios and fobs and garrisons and outposts and these things. I think that would, I mean, that's going to make this game so much more fun. Because that's sort of the whole pull behind those other games, is the team communication. And just as of right now, it doesn't really require that much communication unless you wanted to, of course, in which case I'm sure you'll have a great time. But I think there's a lot of room for expansion in that part of the game. I also want to say the gunplay is really solid. I can see that the focus was put into making sure that the kind of default gunplay feels really good. I'd say the character animations and the gun animations are all like way better than I could have asked for from an early access release. Like, it feels really solid, and I can see that they really wanted their foundation to be there. I mean, it is, the whole idea is that the foundation is for shooters. So it completely makes sense to me that the guns feel really good right now, so that everything else in the game, you know, maps, game modes, UI elements, having new units, factions, all of these kind of things can be the focus, and we can sort of let the gunplay sit for itself. Like, it's doing really good right now, and that's kind of the biggest pull of the game. Considering that the game modes are fairly simple, I think having the gunplay feel so fun is kind of what's pulling the game forward right now. But what do you guys think? I just wanted to bring this game up to you. If you guys haven't heard about it, do not sleep on it. It is a free-to-play tac shooter experience that you can actually download right now for yourself. So I will link the Steam page in the descriptions for you to go check out. If we all commit to playing Operation Harsh Doorstop now and kind of keep up that momentum, then this game is just going to grow and grow and become something really, really special. And I know everyone kind of has different tastes and feelings about the game. I know that there's definitely stuff right now that it needs work there, you know, but it just came out, and considering it's early access, guys, this game is a pretty solid little experience. Even if you don't want to play multiplayer, you can play single player, although the AI is not the most diverse technologically speaking. It's fairly simple. They sort of just rush an objective or defend an objective, rush an objective, defend an objective. And unfortunately, because of the limitations to the squad leader mechanic, there's really not much you can do to control the AI even within your own squad. They're just going to rush that objective how they're programmed to do it. But you know, if you don't want to play online and you want to just get some practice in on single player, it's a perfectly viable option. Also, I feel that maybe these things will change as the community creates more single player scenarios. That'll be really, really fun. I'd even really like to see some co-op stuff with your friends. This game only has space to grow and get bigger in the future, so check it out for yourselves. Let me know, or if you've already played it, let me know what you think on the game. Do you think this game will fulfill the promises that are being made and become a big competitor to these other tac shooters, or do you think it'll die before it ever gets there? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, thanks everyone for hanging out with me. My name is Walker, this is Game Bad, and I hope to see you on the next one. See ya.